Hey, I'm Brian Schirmer.
I'm Dani Colman.
We make comics. We write comics. We are here at the behest of the ALA Graphic Novels and Comics Roundtable, and this is cool. We are actually this is actually a first for us. So we've been doing comics for a while now, but this is the first time that we're actually going to interview each other.
And key piece of information for those of you who don't know, the reason that we are interviewing each other and the reason that we're allowed to be less than 6 feet apart from each other, we are actually married.
Yeah.
We have that going for us.
And to be clear, we are broadcasting from our apartment in San Francisco, and I should clarify that, our 400 square foot apartment in San Francisco. And we'll talk more about how we're adapting to that in a little bit. But yeah, do you want to start? Do you want to talk about, the quick overview of who you are and what you've done and such?
Sure. This comes 5 minutes after I asked him if he wanted to start, so...
I did start. I started talking, and now I'm asking you I'm passing the baton.
The passive aggression runs strong in this marriage. Hey, I'm Dani. So I have been writing things of various descriptions for a long time. I think as with most creative people, for as long as I can remember. But my career in comics began in 2012 when I met this fella. And I had come from kind of a film and television background, done some short film work, some uncredited script rewrites here and there. And was introduced to the comics community when I was at the time studying animation. And so I did some conventions, did some editorial work, kind of copy editing, spell checking things before they went to press, and discovered that not only did I really, really enjoy the medium and it felt very natural to write in, but that the comics community is fantastic. For anyone with designs in film and television, don't. Film people suck. Go into comics instead.
And we lost 10% of our viewers.
Who cares? No one's filming anything at the moment anyway. So yeah, from there kind of worked my way up from behind the scenes, where I did everything from editorial and promotional work to I was press for a little while, reported on comics and entertainment news, made a little name for myself contributing back matter to various comics. I wrote the essays in the back of each issue of This Giant, which is Matt Fraction and Christian Ward's Odyssey. Did some essay work for some of Brian's comics, and over time began breaking in myself with short and anthology work, including a story in Fan Magnifique. I've got a story upcoming in the Iron Circus He Died anthology, and my debut graphic novel is going to be The Unfinished Corner, coming from the Vault Comics next year. And I also have a horror miniseries called This Old House coming out from Evoluzione Publishing. Oh, yeah. I have visual aids. Isn't that cool? Art by Davide Tinto, who is just wonderful. So, yeah.
Me?
Yeah, you go.
Okay, I'll be much quicker. Hey, I'm Brian. My first thing that was published by somebody else was this guy right here, Blackjack Ketchum. It was a surreal Western. Look, I'm blocking my wife. Blackjack Ketchum was a surreal Western I did with Claudio Balboni on art, and it was published in Image Comics a few years back. If you don't have it and you want to find it, good luck, it's out of print. Second book was last year. It was this character right here, Fair Lady. It was a gender swap Magnum PI in a post Lord of the Rings world, and sure, that's as good an explanation as anything. Got my start working with just some friends in putting together little comics, like everyone in the industry always advises aspiring creators to do. I got together with some friends. We made some short comics. We sold them at conventions. We met people. I then wrote a webcomic called Ultra Sylvania that was actually done in conjunction with students at the Academy of Art University in San Francisco. And we did that for about a year and a half, which culminated in 3 successful Kickstarters over the course of 18 months. So 3 volumes of that out there in a ridiculously short period of time. And I look back on it now, I don't know how the hell we did it, but we did. Yeah, and now more writing of comics. I'm, unlike Dani, I'm in the position of being the guy who says, yeah, I'm working on stuff. Can't tell you what it is yet because it hasn't been announced. But yes, there are projects in the works, and we could talk more about what's not in the works and other things that are going on in a little bit. Where do you want to go from here? Or should I just use my cheat sheet?
Yeah, let's start with that and see how it goes.
We'll spin through it. What are you most grateful for in the comics industry? We will get less dry, I promise you, than reading off of my, my little cheat sheet here. What are you most grateful for in the comics industry?
100% the people.
Yeah.
That's a no-brainer. I mean, I love the medium for what it offers creatively, but I wouldn't have stuck with it this long if it didn't have such an incredible community of people. And that's kind of at every level, from, people who are just starting out and enthusiastic and bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, all the way up to veteran creators who have been doing this for decades, who have multiple Eisners to their names. It as often as it's happened to us, and it's been many, many times, I never cease to be surprised and gratified and just delighted at how generous people are with their time. We apologize. Our cat is knocking shit over in the corner.
I'll be right back. Don't embarrass me in front of the people. All right.
This doesn't happen when we don't have to work from home. But yeah, we've had just so many incredible interactions with people at every level of the industry. And it makes it a joy to collaborate, go to conventions.
Keep talking. They're probably paying more attention now that I'm not there.
We've got a little slapstick going. Yeah, at some point we're going to move on to the challenges of working on comics in the current environment, and extremely demanding cats is probably our number one. Did something break?
Oh, hello.
That's just my laptop going to sleep.
Okay, that's fine. I presume I'm still... Yeah, we're good. So, did I mention we live in a 400 square foot apartment in San Francisco? There have certain, we're as with the vast majority of people out there, we are sheltering in place. We have been doing so for about 3 weeks now, a little more, about 3.5 weeks. I had been working from home for about the last 6 months. Dani works from home intermittently. So it wasn't too strenuous an adaptation for us from that regard. But it's, I think the biggest thing we have to stave off is going a little stir crazy and getting a little cabin fever.
And the fact that our cats are batshit insane.
Yeah, and if you jump up there, I will be reported to the SPCA, so please don't do that, Mara. Yeah, so one of the quickest things that we realized we needed to do is we converted our, this is roughly a 10 by 12 foot living room into an office for 2, and still keeping it as a living room that we can chill in the evenings.
And a home gym.
And a home gym. Yeah, what you can't see, and I'm not going to bother to pivot, and I'm certainly not going to drag it out here. We have a folded up rowing machine right there, and a fold up stationary bike right here. So odds are we'll be in even better shape after this is over.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely coming out of the shelter in place more fit than I went into it.
Yeah. So how semi stupid question, but yeah, fuck it, we got all day. How has the lockdown impacted your creative abilities or output, or even just thinking about comics?
Oh God, it's tough. Never mind the fact that I'm very lucky to have a day job that I've been able to keep during all this, and I'm a quintessential white collar tech worker, so I have been extremely fortunate in that regard. But with working from home all the time, there's no separation between work and home anymore. Yeah. So that kind of psychological line between day job work and everything else has ceased to exist, and it's definitely been an adjustment, trying to find it again and carve out time for myself and carve out time to do creative work. And the thing that I have to keep reminding myself, and then I'll say out loud every so often, is that it's okay not to be productive and creative when something like this is going on. There's a lot of pressure from well-meaning but kind of ignorant corners of the internet that are, you have no distractions, you should be as productive as you've ever been, creativity thrives in adversity. Like, no, creativity does not thrive when you're worried about whether your job is going to be there tomorrow and is the entire world going to be infected with a deadly disease. It's like, I don't really have room to tell fun stories in my brain at the moment. And I hope that'll change, but I think the key thing at the moment is not to beat yourself up over not being able to produce stories in the way that you could before.
That's the one thing that I've, so prior to all of this, if I had a day where I felt like I didn't really get creative work done to my personal satisfaction or my goal, I'd beat myself up over it, because that's what we do. But now, if I have a day where it's like, okay, I'm going to sit down and work on this script or work on notes for this other project, and if I come in well under my intended goal, or on rare occasions, if I get absolutely nothing done, I've actually gotten to the point where I'm extremely forgiving of myself and remind myself of what the hell is going on. And by and large, right now, I also can remind myself that the deadlines I have are self-imposed. I'm not, like I say, I do have a project that is lined up at a publisher, but the deadlines for that are fluid at best, particularly given our current situation. So I'm not under the gun, which is rare and relaxing, oddly enough. Which again, balances out with all the general anxiety and stress. And did I mention we live in a 400 square foot apartment in San Francisco? But comics, it's certainly been helpful during this time. If not for the fact that you can't get new physical comics, and actually right now can't really get much of any comics. We're recording this on April the 8th, and as I believe I saw online today, there was nothing. I think DC put out a couple new things. Marvel put out nothing. Most other publishers are putting out scant for Comixology, and so there's a lot of turning to the old stuff. Trending actually today was something, and I don't know if it was Matt Rosenberg who started it, but he was the person, at least in my timeline on Twitter, who popularized it as the new, instead of NCBD for New Comic Book Day, it's NTY CBD, I think, New to You Comic Book Day, and basically, encouraging people to go and find things that they haven't read before and get recommendations from people, not just professionals, but from all strata of comics appreciation. To wit, I find myself I'm actually going to be going and rereading Joss Whedon's run on Astonishing X-Men. This is over 15 years old now, I want to say. but I haven't looked at it in a while, and it's John Whedon and John Cassaday, Joss Whedon and John Cassaday in their prime. Yeah, and this is just going to be like kind of a warm blanket, I suspect. But actually, I'm going to keep going because I can. And, oh, hello. I'm going to give a shout. Speaking of Matt Rosenberg, he and Tyler Boss did this great book a few years back, Four Kids Walk Into a Bank. If you, as with anything I'm about to hold up, if you haven't read it, check it out. Highly recommended. Yada, yada, yada. And if you only know Rosenberg from his current Marvel stuff, then you haven't read this. Something's wrong with you. I can't help you there. Oh, speaking of the vault, where Dani's book is going to find a home next year, I'm sure 9 million people already know about this. These Savage Shores, Ram V, and a cast of thousands. No, and his trio of cohorts on this book. I remember reading the first issue of this before it came out. It had been announced, and he posted online that if there were any, press or friends or other professionals that wanted to check it out, to ask, and he would send it their way. And he sent me a copy of that because we had met a year or two before that, I want to say, and I read it, and I think I got maybe a third of the way through it, and I immediately had to message him and just tell him how much I hated him. It was that good. It was stylistically amazing, artistically beautiful, and it was just the first damn issue.
Another example, by the way, of a comics person who is just, who has been such a pleasure to know and to have in our lives and our social circle.
Yeah.
It's like I could list a murderer's row of people that I would absolutely love to hate because they're just so goddamn skilled, and yet I can't because they're just so goddamn nice.
Yeah, and the creepiness factor of name dropping. We won't do that on this show. I think you can actually see. So this is Mira here. She's actually, well, right now she's being the good cat. Oh God, I don't want to. I'm gonna try to get her not to purr because I have a feeling that'll just get picked up by everything. So don't be happy. You can be content, but don't be happy. In talking about friends and colleagues in the industry and whatnot, and obviously amongst far greater horrors and what have you, obviously all comic conventions have been shut down for the past couple months, and everything that goes along with that, meaning not only being able to sell stuff, which is great, of course, for creators and publishers, but also getting to meet with, once again, colleagues and friends and potentially editors and whatnot, and all of that has now been obviously laid waste. That's a bit extreme, but you know what I mean. One of the questions put to us is, what can we do to help creators right now? There are definitely some thoughts out there.
Yeah, and I actually thought you were going in a different direction with that preamble, but we can circle back.
Answer however you wish. Recontextualize.
Well, so the thing that
take a license
that occurs to me, and we're very lucky to have each other and to both be in this industry, so that we can get all our comics chats out, just on the couch in the afternoons. But there's this huge social component to conventions, and in a way to the industry as a whole, because it's so collaborative, and we are people who have chosen to spend our lives typing away at keyboards or sitting at drawing boards, communing with the muse and creating one hopes beautiful things. And so there is this massive social component to conventions,
right,
where every time we go to one, we are condensing all the time that we have wanted to spend with our friends into a long weekend. And we don't really have that at the moment.
Right, and that's the thing that I think people that are fans or readers or outside the industry might not know or realize is that so many people that write or do art or letterers or colorists, they are they're like this. They are working from home year round, even before we entered the apocalypse, and it might not it might not be a lonely business, but it is very much an alone business. There's not a lot of there are a few artists who actually work in studios with others that the conglomerates that they've assembled themselves. But by and large, most people, if they're lucky, they have a partner or a spouse and or a family. But there are some people that just that live alone and create their comics, and these shows, yes, are the time where they get together with other people that have that same kind of experience in life, and be reminded of the fact that, oh wait, I might be crazy, but I'm not that crazy because look at all these other people that do this year round and make a living doing it. It's great, and we get to bond a few times throughout the year over that, and not having that is weird. It's weird. It's a little depressing. But one of the things that I actually do think about quite a lot these last couple of weeks is when this is all over, the first convention that actually happens. I think the first convention that happens anywhere, people are going to lose their minds because it's been so long, and there's going to be this kind of catharsis both amongst the attendees and the creators and the exhibitors.
Yeah, we're seriously going to be, soldiers seeing our families again after the war.
I envision. I'm a hugger. I freely admit this. I miss hugging. We hug plenty, but I sincerely miss hugging other people, and I think at the next convention I go to, I should probably count it because I think we'll easily clear a couple hundred hugs. All pre-approved and hashtag me too.
Consensual hugs only.
Consensual hugs only. Yes, I will not be the guy walking around with the free hugs sign because that was always creepy, I think.
But yeah, I hope we certainly have kind of reached out to a number of our friends via email, and we try to check in with people via email, social media, make sure that everyone kind of remembers that there are other human beings in this. And I hope that people are being proactive, and I think we should be more than we are about setting up virtual hangouts, playing board games online, gaming if you have a console, or even just having a virtual coffee in a Zoom room. I've had the chance to do that with a handful of non-comics friends and colleagues, and it's surprising to me how big a difference it makes to see a face and hear a voice, even through a screen. It makes a difference.
Yeah, and so Dani's you've been 80-90% off of social media for a while now.
Oh yeah. I forgot to post one day and never went back.
I made a point, oddly enough, I want to say maybe 3 weeks before the lockdown came, of I took a long weekend off of social media after so many people on social media, oddly enough, espousing the merits and the values of going away just for even a little bit. And I did it, and it was so nice. I could literally, after a couple days, literally feel the tension, drop out of me. And I was shocked, because I'd seen people post about that, oddly enough, or talk about it face to face, and saying that yeah, it's a ridiculous load off, and thought, hey, it's not that noticeable. It was noticeable, and it was noticeable enough that I after the 4 or 5 days, I came back. I said as much, I wrote as much on social media, and then said that I was going to be, less active. Basically, my plan was I would go to, I'd go to Twitter maybe once a day. I don't even think that. I think my plan was to actually go Twitter and Facebook like once a week, if I had anything to say or if I wanted to see anything, and that was it. And that was really nice. And then a couple weeks go by, and well, we kind of start down the sinkhole that is our world daily life now, and pretty, after a couple weeks, realize, okay, I guess I'm going to install Twitter back on my phone, just because of the state that we're in, and there's rarely a day that goes by that there isn't some measure of misfortune or crazy or the occasional little bits of hope and joy, and I kind of feel like I need to be there, or at least have the sense of it, both on the grand scale and then on the relatively smaller scales, like knowing what's going on in the comics industry. And to be fair, no one knows what's going on in the comics industry right now because everything is on hold. Point being, I'm back on social media. I would very much like to not. So if everyone could just please stay the fuck home and not help this thing spread, and maybe we can make it go away, and maybe we can get a vaccine in quicker than 18 months, and then I can delete Twitter again. Sorry, Twitter. Sorry, Jack. But yeah, I got better things to do, and I would like to lose this tension again. Monologue over.
Do you want to talk at all about what is going on in the comic book industry? Because a lot of it is uncertainty and question marks, and no one really knows what's going to happen. But I think it's so many things were set in motion by the economy basically grinding to a halt, and I'm talking specifically in the comics industry, where dominoes started to fall very, very quickly. Yeah. Because of the way the industry is structured. And I imagine that there are a lot of people out there, hopefully even listening to this, who might not be aware of kind of what's going on and why things have suddenly become as difficult as they are. And, further than that, want to know how they can help, what they can do to help keep comic shops, comic creators going throughout this.
Sure. I don't laugh because it's not serious. I laugh because it is so serious to the industry and the health of the body comic. Ooh, yeah.
So to give kind of the Cliff Notes version,
I do. I'm sorry. I'm going to jump in real quick and just say, keep it to the broad and the facts as we know them right now. Only because, again, we're recording this on a day. I'm not too sure when this is actually going to release. Even if it were tomorrow, any opinion could be
out of date.
Right.
No, to give the broad Cliff Notes version, I'm sorry, my Slack notifications just came back on. So most comics are bought and sold through local comic shops, which are almost all independent businesses in the truest sense. There are very few that have more than one location or that have a parent company with deep pockets. And those comic shops rely on the distribution ecosystem, which is really the one company that has the infrastructure to get comics from the publishers to those stores and subsequently to the people who are going to read them. And that distributor relies on the publishers having a healthy output, which relies on some degree of predictability in terms of who's going to be buying and what events might be coming up.
Sure.
Independent publishers especially rely on convention season to a very large degree to make their announcements. They sell a ton of books at these conventions. They do a lot of business. And so what's happened is that the entire ecosystem really has been attacked at every level of this chain, because the local comic shops obviously have to close because of shelter-in-place orders. The publishers are delaying their books, canceling their books, making very, very cautious decisions about what to do because there's no longer this predictable convention and events calendar, and we don't know when things are going to get back to normal. And the distributor, caught in the middle, now has no one to sell to and no one to buy from. And so these sort of three legs of the industry that were very, very codependent are having a lot of trouble standing without each other. And so what it's causing is not only a lot of question marks in terms of, are these shops going to survive? Are some of these small publishers going to survive? Are the creators going to be able to continue creating and making money? But there's a big question about how and whether this is going to really fundamentally change the shape of the industry moving forward. And that's the thing that everyone is wondering about and no one really has an answer to. If you'll excuse me a second, I'm going to turn these notifications off.
Sure. A key thing that I'll throw in real quick is, you know, you've probably already seen this on social media, but you know, if you do get your comics on the regular from a local comic shop, or even if you don't, even if you get them from conventions, or you are more of a digital person, or if you tend to quote unquote wait for the trade and you can get it through, you know, Amazon or bookstore or some such, there are a great many comic shops that are offering curbside pickup, that are offering incredible deals on ordering and shipping. Yeah, I mean, just seriously, you can just go online and you can likely find a shop in your area or in your greater metropolitan area, depending on where you are, that is offering something like that. And seriously, some of the deals out there are really cool. The only one I will name drop, because I literally just saw this, I think, yesterday, was Golden Apple, which is a shop in Los Angeles, and I believe they're offering like a box, like a curated flat rate box from USPS, full of comics, and you basically you call them up and you tell them what types of comics you like, and they will go through and find you stuff and ship it for a extremely conservative fee. Shipping, I mean, like really low. They're eating a little bit on these, is what I'm saying, but it's still enough to help them keep the lights on. And the same with so many other comic shops.
Yeah.
Yeah. Backpedaling a little bit on what you were talking about insofar as how it's impacting the publishing side. There was news late last week, which would have been Friday the 3rd, April 3rd, of various publishers cutting back, basically, and putting titles on hold. I believe that I read that Marvel itself was putting anywhere from 20 to 30%, and that 30% may be high. Don't quote me. Putting books on hold and basically contacting the creators assigned to them and saying, "Yeah, we got to push pause on this for now," which is, you know, really scary to freelancers and the vast majority of creators, even at the top two, the big two, are also freelancers. So taking anything away is a big hit. We also had a friend of ours post that same day, actually, or thereabouts, that he had a book that was just flat out canceled, and he attributed that to basically be a $15,000 loss for him for the year. He was very quick to point out that he was in an okay shape financially, but still, you're counting on that kind of money to come in a year, and suddenly it's gone, and we're living in the situation we're living in, and who knows, you know, if he's going to be able to make that back up in any meaningful way. And again, there are obviously people that are worse off than folks working in comics and writing funny books, but it's all relative, as someone once said.
I think we're going to see a lot of people trying to figure out ways to monetize their back catalog to.
Oh, it's already happening.
Yeah, to make what they have available online in a way that can make them some kind of money. Yeah. And the webcomics publishers are doing fairly well at the moment. Webtoons in particular, I think. Because they're so geared towards easily accessible, extremely affordable, bite-sized amounts of content. Yeah. So it tends to be at a price point that people are willing to pay even if they have financial insecurity. You can almost always justify dropping 99 cents to entertain yourself for a little while. So which is good. It's very good, I think, that there are these kind of new media publishers that are going to do okay. It means that there are still ways for people to get work out there, to get paid for it. Obviously, not every creator in the industry is going to be able to go right to Webtoons.
Sure.
But it means that whatever else happens, there are still companies successfully publishing content.
And to wit, yeah, I don't want it to sound like it's all doom and gloom. There's plenty of people out there saying that this is the death of comics, it's going away, blah, 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 blah. It's not. There may well be changes to the way and the manner in which, in the mode in which comics, quote unquote, come out to people after all this is done. We'll have to wait and see when the dust clears. But even right now, like I said, I have a project that's coming out sometime next year. That is a huge epic. It is my epic. It is my Gilgamesh. That is going to be a lot of work to do, and we've been in discussion. I've been in discussion with this publisher for quite a while on this, and out of the blue, I actually got an email from the editor in chief, week and a half ago, basically telling me that this world's going to hell in a handbasket, but they are ready for this. So I can straight up tell you it is not. I can tell you who it's not. It's not. This is not a big two project. This is also a publisher that I have not done any work with until now. But he basically told me that they are ready for this. They are set up in such a way that they can weather this storm, and I think that's going to be the case for kind of some of the mid-level and even potentially smaller publishers out there who didn't get too big too fast and what have you. But point being, it was really nice to actually just get that email from him saying, to be clear, they're going to do this book. They want to do this book. And he could easily have written saying, hey, this is all that's going on. We're going to push pause on this right now. Or they could easily have just said, we can't do it right now. I'm sorry. Let's talk about it again in a year. And that wasn't the case. So yeah, there are some bright lights, still shining out there, I guess, in comics is my point.
And I think I have a strong suspicion that when we're out the other side of this and we were able to look back with some distance, in a lot of ways, we're going to find that whatever dramatic change happens in comics as a result of this is really just a speeding up of changes that were already in progress. Like a general turn away from monthlies and towards graphic novels. I think a real broadening or a continuing to broaden of the books for younger demographics, middle grade and YA. I know that children's literature is doing very, very well at the moment. Sure. Because so many kids are home from school. And so there's a real kind of there's a real push to get kids books, to keep them occupied, keep them reading. And I think that is translated over to comics and graphic novels as well, where stuff that's aimed at school-age readers is actually doing quite well at the moment. Yeah, I think in a lot of ways this is shortening the timeline on changes that have been kind of rumbling for a while. Yeah.
Yeah, obviously, if it was only under better circumstances, but
true.
Comics, writing comics. We write. Yeah. Did we ever say that? Yeah. We write comics. We're not artists. If you've been sitting here and watching and listening to us for this long, and you're only finding this out now, and you've been waiting for us to start sketching some stuff. Sorry, you have been disappointed. We should talk a little bit about process, I guess, or something. Or
what process? Everything is improvisation at the moment.
It's true. Well, right now, yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's talk to you a little bit about Unfinished Corner. Where did you give them the one-line description?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Okay, so my graphic novel with the Vault. Hi, kid. It is a middle grade Jewish fantasy adventure, and when I pitched this to the Vault, so they're a boutique science fiction and fantasy publisher, and they put out wonderful science fiction and fantasy books. And when I pitched them on this a while ago, I knew that I wanted to give them something that no one else could possibly have pitched. And in addition, I was really, really keen to do something for younger readers. Most of my work so far has been a lot more adults. But I thought fantasy is such an amazing genre for reaching young readers, because you can use it as a metaphor for all the turbulence of adolescence. You can kind of make it manifest in monsters and quests. And that to me was really, really appealing from a storytelling perspective. Was there a particular direction you wanted me to go with this?
No, not really. Do you want to try and...
Yeah.
Here.
Technology.
Yeah. Woo. There you go. Why comics? Why was specifically for the Unfinished Corner? Why? I know the story behind when and how you pitched that particular story, but why? I also know you're quite adept at writing prose. Why go for YA graphic novel instead of YA prose?
Because I had a publisher I was pretty confident would publish it.
That's good.
It sounds mercenary, but it's true. And it's become increasingly clear as I've worked on this story that the graphic novel is absolutely the right format for it, especially as art has begun to come in from the team, and it's dynamic and it's fun and it's so sort of visually arresting. But could the same story have been told as a novel? Absolutely. But I had the inroads in comics. I knew the publishers. I had a good sense of what they were looking for and that they were likely to accept it. And I have been a firm believer for a very long time that the project you should be most passionate about is the one that's going to get greenlit.
Yeah. Because
that's what gets your work out there. And this was a story that I really, really wanted to tell. And doing it as a novel would have required, at least an additional year's work.
Yeah. In
terms of building up that community, building up those contacts, getting an agent, getting it to publishers. Would it ultimately have been worth it if that felt like really the right medium for it? Sure. But it got picked up by a comics publisher, and I could not be happier at the decision to do it as a graphic novel. So, yeah, I'm sure you wanted something about the particular possibilities of the graphic novel medium and blah, 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 blah. But no, honestly, I'm more mercenary than that.
Which is totally fine. That's why I married her, folks. No, I have long believed that, yes, be passionate about the stories that you create and the ones you pitch even before they're done. But at the same time, be prepared to watch them die. Be prepared to watch them go down with, 24 arrows in their back. Because sometimes you may come up with something, it may be brilliant. Everybody you talk to may say, oh my God, that's awesome, that's great. And you can't find a home for it to save its life. And, self-publishing is an option sometimes and so on and so forth. But At the same time, you got to know when to let something go and go on to the next one, because it is it's a marathon. It's not a sprint.
Yeah, and I mean, I can actually speak really specifically to that. The story I have coming up in the Iron Circus Who Died anthology. So a former student of mine, I teach a writing class, and a former student of mine reached out to ask if I wanted to collaborate for this anthology. We both really, really love the Iron Circus books. And so I worked up a couple of pitches that I thought would be a really good fit for her style and her proclivities as an artist. And of the 3 pitches we decided to send in, there was one that we both, I knew I wanted to send in 3, it felt like a good number, so there was one that we were really, really gung-ho about. We both loved it, really felt strongly about it. There was a second one that we both really enjoyed, and then there was a third one that I wrote up basically 5 minutes before we hit submit in order to have that third pitch. It was 3 feels like a good number, and something about robots feels like it will balance out our more organic other 2 pitches. And of course, guess which one got selected? It was the tossed off here are some robots ones. And we allowed ourselves that moment of disappointment that this other story that we'd felt really good about wasn't selected. But then we rolled up our sleeves and we got to work on the robot story. And I can honestly say it is one of my favorite things I have ever written. Maddie's artwork for it was beautiful. Her robot designs are so cute. They are literally painful. And I'm delighted with how it turned out. And it would have been so easy to get hung up on the story we didn't get to tell, and to put in less than our best work on this robot story. But we were both professional and pragmatic enough to know that being accepted to this anthology represented an amazing opportunity, that these books are some of the best anthologies that any publisher put out. And so we were doing ourselves a disservice if we gave even our second choice, third choice story anything less than our absolute best effort.
Yeah, I think anytime, well, put simply, anytime you get a pitch picked up somewhere, you sorry, the cat's just being. What are you doing? Okay. Furry children, folks. Yeah, you get something picked up. It doesn't matter if it's I thought if we did that already. Sorry, that message is coming up on the screen. Oh, how did I get started in comics? Oh, well, it's so nice of you to ask. No, let me finish
I already know the story.
My quick point was, you get something picked up. It can be a 3-page shortened anthology. It can be a 120-page graphic novel. You give it your all. You got, someone gave you the green light. Someone is potentially going to pay you to do this. You put your heart and soul and your lack of sleep into it.
And that goes for anything, by the way.
Yeah, that's what I said.
People talk about sort of saving their best work for their creator-owned material and, licensed work. Oh, I'll just kind of phone it in. No, if someone is willing to pay you money to write a comic book about, some third-tier Barbie knockoff doll that they want to revive, you write the best goddamn third-tier Barbie knockoff story you possibly can.
Absolutely.
And there have been some astonishing examples of that recently. The DC Hanna-Barbera crossovers that should not have worked on paper. On paper, it is the silliest idea I could possibly imagine.
Right.
And yet, Batman versus Elmer Fudd literally and deservedly won Eisners. And the new Flintstones series is mind-blowingly
good. Mark Russell writing on the Flintstones, and then also did the Exit Stage Left, Snagglepuss book with Mike Fian.
Yeah, and he did exactly what you should do in that instance, which is use the opportunity in these superficially silly characters and scenarios to find something to say.
Yeah. I'm going to make a hard left just because the suggestion was put out there. in succinct, as succinct as possible. And you may have already said some of this. How did you get started?
I met you.
Okay. I didn't know you were asking me the same question.
How did you get started in comics?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Dani. So my background, similar to Dani's, was film. I spent a few years going down to LA, pitching stuff to various people and screenplays and scripts and what have you, and got very close once with somebody who was doing something else that had gotten announced the day before that was very similar to what I pitched, so that didn't go anywhere. Jump ahead, as I said, I made some comics with some friends because it just seemed like a cool thing to do. And around that time, I met two people that were making a go of it, writing comics in different levels. One a gentleman by the name of Dan Cooney, who was doing a book called Valentine back then, and now he is doing a series called Tommy Gun Dolls, which I believe he's doing through Kickstarter primarily. He might have a website, not sure. So I met Dan Cooney and a woman named Kelly Sue DeConnick, who went on to do nothing. I think she's selling macrame now or some such, or Tupperware. Anyway,
We love you, Kel.
yeah, met both of them in short order and went, that seems interesting. Maybe I'll give that a try. And I threw my hat in the ring at a very, very, very tiny publisher, and got a gig to write a graphic novel. And so the good news there is, and I had published nothing up to this point besides the little things that we did to sell at conventions. I'm gonna turn that back on.
Yeah.
But I got the contract and everything, and so I wrote a 120-page graphic novel and turned it in, and wouldn't you know it, it never got made.
That never happens in comics.
Right. And it was, I knew this. I knew what the contract said. I was just eager to get my foot in the door. It was all a back-end deal, meaning I would get paid based on units sold. And, well, if they didn't actually get an artist to actually draw the book, there's nothing to sell. That said, that led to me getting a teaching job at Academy of Art University in San Francisco, wherein, as I said previously, ultimately was able to do a book with some very talented students there and some talented friends of mine. And we did that over the course of about 18 months, and took that around to conventions and sold it, and this is a little longer than I had planned to do. Basically culminating in, how much of this do I want to tell? It led to me getting my first book with Image, which was Blackjack Ketchum. I refuse to name drop. Let's just put it this way: there were a lot of helping hands along the way. There were names of people that a lot of you know, and yeah, me naming them is gonna make me look like a schmuck, so I'm not gonna do that. And then doors opened, and a lot of them remain open, and there's things are happening, and then jumping forward to now, I'm like I say, I've got the one book that's coming hopefully next year, depending on how all of this shakes out. And then I'm working in other media as well. I'm working on other, I never saw myself as exclusively a comics writer. Obviously, like I said, I got my start doing screenplays. So I'm looking at other opportunities right now to branch out and broaden my horizons.
Diversify your portfolio.
That's it. Before I forget, the only other thing on here of any real note, we have a newsletter. How can they best find said newsletter?
Well, Brian frequently posts the sign-up link on his social media, so if you follow him on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, if you follow him on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, you will come across the link at some point. I believe there's also a sign-up link on my website, which is www.danywrightstuff.com, and which, oh dear God, needs to be updated, but it functions. And I'm pretty sure the links are available on my social media as well. I wouldn't know. I haven't looked at any of them in about 6 weeks. Yeah, we're easy to find that way.
Yeah. When things are quote unquote normal, we send one out every 2 weeks. Haven't sent one out in the better part of a month. Can't imagine why.
Dear diary, today we worked from home.
Yeah.
Our cats were idiots.
Ow! Let's don't take a chunk with her. Say bye-bye, Mira. Ow! Yeah, I've been getting the itch to actually put something out there, just whatever, to proof of life, and also just to kind of say, to reaffirm some of the stuff we were saying earlier about, it's like, look, if you're reading this and you're a creator or an aspiring creator and you're not getting stuff done and you're beating yourself up, don't. We are literally living through worldwide history right now, and it's something that no one alive on this planet has actually experienced before. So cut yourself some slack.
Yep. And all of that said, I may indeed have something to announce in the next one. I'm working on something that is designed to be accessible to readers in these troubled times when it's difficult to get out to a store or to get physical media. So it's a fun little digital project that I hope people will enjoy, but more about that when it's closer to release.
Cool. Yeah.
And on that note, I do actually have a day job.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, this might be the... Wait. Where's my parachute? My parachute! Yeah, I think that's all we gotta say.
Yeah.
I hope we didn't bore you. I hope you stuck with it. I hope you're not depressed that we're upset that we're writers and not illustrators. If you in the future see me at any kind of convention, if I survive all this, I do
Give him a hug.
Oh yes, I'll take a hug. I draw a mean stick figure Batman, so I'll do that.
Better than Tom King's.
Yeah.
All right, I think that's it.